Welcome back to the Alternative Highs podcast, the number one podcast in Southwestern Ontario. That is a fact. And just a quick PSA, about 85% of you are just coming and watching. Hit the subscribe button. It's simple. It's free. Just do it. This guest is really quite amazing. I'm going to give a quick backstory. He is Holy the Goalie. He is pastor. He is a good friend to the Chatham community, right now closer to Richtown. I met him actually when I was a teenager. You were at a different church outside of Blenheim when I first came to watch you. And then years later, I would get to know you through hockey.
That's true.
Holy the Goalie.
Holy the Goalie. Nobody knew my name.
Pastor
And
Douglas
holy,
Rowley.
not because of the pastoral part, but because of the opportunities to score and the slow movement.
I love it. It was a fun time in life.
It was.
I can remember sitting down and talking to you many times. I've always had a great deal of respect for you and love, and it was fun the way we got to know each other, but
I was probably yelling at you.
Once I put a hockey helmet on, I turned into a whole different human being.
You were fast.
It was playing.
You skated like the wind. You just didn't know how to stop. The boards.
The boards they're helpful to me. I've told a story and I've never put a name to it. And just to give some context to what I'm talking about, I had a gentleman on, Dan Komisky, and we were talking about religion, and we got talking. We went deep, and I just through my car accident 10 years ago. I don't know where I stood with what I believed in. And then, as I told Dan, my father, through his way of helping me was always to try and put the right people in front of me. And he chose you. And he asked if I was cool with Holy the Goalie coming in after I broke my back, was told I'd never walk again, and I was paralyzed. He asked if it was cool if you came and visited me. We had a previous relationship, and I was in a really dark, and I just wasn't in a good place. But I had already loved you. And it was easy to say yes, even though I didn't know where I stood. He didn't care how I landed on the way I took you in. And I was telling Dan, I said, when you came in, it was just a moment in time of...
You were in the London hospital, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't even remember. I'm thinking, I don't remember. I don't know what hospital I was at. There was 3 or 4 different hospitals that I was in at that time.
Yeah, I don't actually recall which hospital either.
And all I know is that you showed up.
Yeah. You
showed up and you said, Dust, can I pray with you? You put your hand on my leg, on my knee, and you prayed. And something very wild happened. I had fire. My big toe fired. And that, to me, was what would be the best description of that moment to you?
I think it was a wake-up call. It was a turning point. It was a moment in time when your view on life was going to shift. And it wasn't like all of a sudden you could walk again or anything like that. It was just like, maybe there is something more at play here.
Yeah.
And I remember you almost didn't know what to do with it.
No.
Because you moved your toes or something for the first time. And she was like speechless. She didn't know what to do with it. And I still don't know.
Yeah, we met for lunch last week and you said this never happened.
Well, I mean, for me, I'm a very conservative person, even in my faith, and very respect boundaries. I don't shove anything down anyone's throat, but I have a very strong core belief in God and what He can do.
Mm-hmm.
And I've experienced that in my own life. But as I was driving down the 401, and I was going to meet you, And for whatever it's worth, in spite of you being a wild child, and you could tell you were troubled, I saw something in you that I liked from the very beginning. So there was a warmth in me towards you. Maybe inexplicable, but I liked you, in spite of some of your behaviors. That's the truth. But as I'm driving down the 401, I went, well, for Dustin today, but he's in a bad way. And I actually felt God say to me, and I have no way of explaining this, wasn't an audible voice, that Dusty will move his legs today. So I went in there expecting, and yet I was still surprised. But that's what happened, and drove away going, well, maybe this should happen more often if we just give God an opportunity. So what it would mean in your life, that was still to be determined. What it meant for me was pray a little bit more boldly, and don't short circuit the possibilities, because there is a God and he is able to do things beyond our comprehension. I still don't know why you had to go through this whole path of healing and recovery and pain management, but I do believe that the God of all creation exists, and I believe he is actually far more interested in you than just your physical body. There's something more important to him.
It was it was the turning point for me. I mean, things got pretty wild after that, but I at that moment in time, I was down in that chapel every day after that.
Was that right?
I didn't miss a day.
Yeah.
I went down and I prayed I went from one side of the fence all the way over. I took that moment and I really believed. I mean, it's hard to believe with the way I acted afterwards.
Sometimes all humans are dense. Like even I am too. Like sometimes the lessons to be learned, it just takes repeat, and finally we get it.
Yeah.
And one of the Bible verses is God is very slow to anger. He's very patient. And so I found that in my own life, and no doubt with you. Because God knows the Dustin that was, but even the Dustin that was, the boy, he knew that the man he would become. Like time is just a construct for us. God sees the end at the same moment as he sees the beginning. So everything for you is a journey, but God sees it, the outcome. You've been on a journey from boy to man. I can see the difference already. And trust me, you're not done the journey yet. None of us are. But you've become a man, and there'll probably be some bumps along the way still. Yeah. But look at the distance you've covered. And you haven't done it on your own, even though you think you might have.
Oh, I definitely don't think. I was thinking about that. I do a lot of reflecting. I do. I like to reach out when I know, and I like to think when I realize, and it's important to me. And I've told your story so many times. I was like, why is that not the conversation? Because that man, you're very humble. You don't take it the way I see it. The way I see it, I was like, there's so many things for me that you changed that day. My perspective, for one, because it was kind of ignorant, and by kind it was. You changed some values, you changed some morals. There was so much to me that was. It took a few years, but it really did catch on. And I came into church in my wheelchair. I went up that little Zoom track up your stairs.
I remember that. Yeah. We have an elevator now.
It was all things that I didn't ever see myself doing. I, for one, have always and will always respect and love you for the beginning, the middle, and where we're at today and where we go in the future.
The important thing to know, though, is, and I'm very cognizant of this, is I really had nothing to do with it. I care about you, so I visited you and I prayed. Everything else is it's God.
Mm-hmm.
And so for you, it was no waking, but it was just like a little light came on. It starts to get brighter, and you begin to realize more and more. So you actually experienced the touch of God's power. Who knows what else he can do?
Now I'm going to kind of pivot a little bit here. How do you move through life like your father? How do you keep business and family in balance with this very specific path of life that you've chosen?
Well, the one thing is sometimes we approach life like it's a shopping mall, and you go into this store for this thing, and you go into this store for this thing. We compartmentalize everything. So for me, my life is not like that. So obviously, I had an encounter with the God of all creation when I was 18, 19, and it transformed my life. Mm-hmm. And I learned that, the Bible is, we say it's God's word. God is as good as his word. Like, actually, I've learned to trust God. Mm-hmm. And never been disappointed. It's when I depend on myself and do things my own way, that's when things go crappy. But it's not like I have my faith here, and my job here, and my family here, and my hobbies here, and my athletics here. It's that. And it's not like God is the top of my list, and then I have a whole list of priorities like this. It's, for me, my faith in God is the list. So everything I do is framed by the fact that God exists, I'm a recipient of his care, and how can I serve him in this area where I am. Don't worry about tomorrow. What does he want me to do right now? He's held in balance.
You said, and I put a little pin in there, you said that it was 18 or 19. Do you remember like the moment? Do you remember what it specifically was that you... Yeah.
I had a couple of moments. The first one was it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous, and I'll tell you because it's so stupid. I always believed in God, just like you. I think you believed in God. Most people do, by the way. They just don't know who that God is or what the expectation is, and we're afraid of the unknown, so we keep all that at arm's length. But I always believed in God. But this young lady I was dating, and I was the teenager, I always had to have a pretty girl at my right hand. And so this one girl, she seemed to be available, so okay, let's date. Her name was Debbie. She is a lovely girl. But one day we're walking to school, and she asked me this religious question, which I was not interested in. Like you back then, I didn't want any religious. I just wanted to live my life and party on the weekends and spend time with my friends. But she asked me if I had ever received Christ as my Savior. I had no idea, really care. So I said, look, I believe in God. I told her that. I said, but that's the end of the conversation. Like, I'm interested in you, but that's as far as it goes. She says, well, just for the record, that's not what I asked you. And then she proceeded to tell me, everybody believes for the most part. Very few don't believe, but receiving is actually acknowledging that God exists, but accepting a gift. It's like receiving his forgiving love. She said, have you ever done that? And I said, I'm not talking about this. But she told me something I didn't know. So I always thought, hey, we believe we're good, right? Mm-hmm. No, she told me that I actually had to make a gesture towards God. It's like if I was to give you this, Dusty. Unless you take it, it's not yours. So, Easter Eve, 1980. I'm sleeping at my grandma's house because she's alone and she's not well. And I'm just laying on her couch and I'm thinking about the conversation. Like, well, God, I've never done that. Okay, forgive me, because I knew I'd lied. I knew I'd done stuff like that. We've all done stuff like that as kids. And that's it. God, forgive me. End of prayer. A few days later, she revisited the conversation. And this is where it gets ridiculous. She goes, have you ever received her? I said, Dad, I did. I said that prayer. She goes, that's great. We no longer need to date. And she broke up with me on the spot. That's how I became a follower of Christ. If that's not the stupidest. But here's the deal. When I said that prayer, it was genuine. And it's like I opened a crack. Actually, I learned later on, the scriptures say, knocks at the door. And if you open just a little bit, he'll enter. And that's what happened. But I didn't know it. And then I had a profound experience where a year later, I didn't go to church or anything, by the way. So that's all that happened. But I had a profound experience. I had been accepted to go to the University of Waterloo. I was going to become an architect and do some drafting. And it was Friday morning. You know how the Labor Day weekend? Friday and then you start school on Tuesday. I had a car given to me. Believe this. All my tuition was paid for. I had a room. I had a roommate. Been accepted. Everything was paid for. I woke up Friday morning. I went into the lowlands. You ever been there? Mm-hmm. Where everything just seemed hopeless. Yeah. And like the world was an oyster for me. Like finally somebody, my whole family was excited. Finally somebody in the family was going to do something with their life. But as I lay there Friday morning, I just went into the loneliness going, I don't want to do this. This is not what I'm cut out for. And I'm a very decisive person. Always have been. And so I decided I wasn't going. But what was I going to do? In that desperation as a 19-year-old boy, immature, I said my second prayer. I said, God help me. And what happened next changed my life dramatically. Set the tone for praying prayers like I prayed for you, that knowing that God can do anything. I had gone to church with this girl one time, and I thought they were all crazy at that church. But I remember the minister saying he had gone to school in Peterborough to become a pastor. I wasn't interested in anything like that. I know nothing about the Bible. And all of a sudden I know nothing. That'd be cool to learn that. And something rose up in me, got me excited. So I rolled over and I dialed 411 and I said, can I have a school that teaches the Bible in Peterborough? And the lady on the other end went, which one? She listed off a number, and one of the ones she said kind of sounded like the church I'd gone to, and I said, well, that'd be the one. I talked to this lady. She said, do you go to church? I went, no. Do you have a pastor? No. Well, then what are you calling us for? She took my name and information, said to get involved, maybe apply again in a year because they've accepted hundreds of people, rejected hundreds, because there wasn't enough room. But here's what happened. A phone rang a half hour later, and it was a minister from Midland, where I grew up. He says, I don't know you. But this lady just called me from the seminary, the Bible college, and said they prayed and think God's doing something unusual. They just think that for some reason, unexplainable, you need to go down and meet them. My mom was out west in Alberta, Calgary. I called her and said, I'm not going to the university. I think I'm going to go to a school in Peterborough if they'll accept me. For what, she said. Told her. She was ready to call cult busters. She had no idea what I was getting involved in. Flew back. She went down with me on Tuesday morning, and they decided, in spite of there being no room, they wanted me to stay. And I actually took room with a teacher who said, you can stay with me as long as you need. 2 weeks later, I'm there, and here's the deal. I don't like it. All these people, they're religious people, they're happy, they're praising the Lord. I have no idea what they're talking about in class because I didn't grow up in church, I know nothing. And I'm in the lowlands again. And I come back to this apartment where this faculty person had said I could stay there, and I went into this room that they provided for me, and there was a pink bedspread. I'm 19. I'm emotionally down. I was going this direction in my life. Within 3 days, I'm going this direction. A couple of weeks later, I've lost. I got no friends. I see this pink bedspread, and it's the straw that breaks the camel back. I go, this is awful. And I started to weep. Pulled myself together, and I prayed my third prayer, and this would change my life. This moment, I said, God, it can't be by accident that I'm here. So I'm going to stick it out for the rest of the year, no matter what. I'm going to trust you. That was my third prayer. At that very moment, the phone rang. And it was the dean of students said, we had a room open up on campus. Doug, would you come and stay with us? I learned that when you take God at his word, you just say, I'm going to trust you. Anything is possible. And even though I didn't understand it at the time, it was the joy of my life I never knew. But because I said yes, my life changed. And I've never regretted.
Must have been at that age so unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
I look back now and go, who in their right mind would have just dropped everything and gone right into the unknown?
The whole time, it's so, you're calling calls and you do what you're called to do.
Yeah, it's bizarre. Like I don't even understand myself back then.
Yeah.
One day, I don't know if I told you this, Dusty, I'm driving down a country road. This is many years later. And I caught something out of the corner of my eye and I stopped. And I walked down and through the ditch and up on the other side, and there was a farmer's fence there. And on the fence post was a turtle. Remember me telling you this? And I looked at the turtle on top of the fence post. And I went, that could not be there unless a higher hand put it there. And I said, that's a metaphor for me.
Yeah.
I could not be anywhere in life unless God took me and said, boom. So some people say, oh, I don't believe in God. And I go, well, you probably do, because if you're in crisis, that instinctively you're going to ask for help. For me, there's no doubt. Because not only do I see the evidence in the world, but I've experienced God in such a profound way that you can't convince me otherwise.
I didn't know that part of it, and I kind of always wanted it. That was beautiful. I got chills
Well, it's not that there hasn't been some hardships along the way. Like there's sometimes we get difficulties and things where we need to learn lessons and grow up. But that's it for me. That changed my destiny. So, and everyone's is different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So with the way that everything came to be, how soon was it after there's a call-in? How soon after? Because I don't understand. I'm not a churchgoer.
Yeah. And neither was I, by the way.
How long after that did you get your own church? And is that how they worded it? Is that how that's worded?
Yeah. So, just to show you, I got to be very careful because expressing humility is very important to me. But I had to work really hard, okay? Because I knew nothing. Like you, okay? I didn't know anything.
Yeah.
But I graduated the very highest, and I was given a pastoral role immediately, working in my home church, the town of Midland, for 1 year, not even actually. And then I ended up having my own church next year. I was the youngest pastor in the denomination. But it's all attested to the fact that God said, here's a man who will say yes and trust me if he says yes. And even though I had no church experience, which I think for me was a good thing, because I didn't come into it with a lot of luggage.
I was going to say, very open.
Very open, and could look at things that people would say, like, for a lot of people, religion is a lot of do's and don'ts. Emphasis on you can't do this and can't do that. Well, I read the Gospels, and I saw that Jesus went to a lot of parties, and he hung around with prostitutes, and he had a real heart for people that were self-medicating or struggling in their lives. And I went, religious people have missed the point. I'm not going to be one of those. And so in my first church, I ended up also working outside the church in a girls' home with wards of the court. And the church grew with foster families and with these adolescents that were struggling. And I thought, this is what the church should look like. People who aren't perfect. It's more like a hospital.
How hard was that for everybody to understand? Or was it even hard?
No, birds of a feather flock together. It just grows together. But I would have to stop in the middle of the service and say to a couple college students or high school students in the back row to stop necking, or maybe it's a good idea to get sober before you come in. So, but it didn't matter. Like we're just a family of broken people. And sometimes when you get broken people, like glass, you get edges and you get cut. That's all part of it. So I like to tell people that say, well, I'm not interested in religion. Neither am I. Well, that doesn't make sense. You're a pastor. I don't like religion. Neither did Jesus. If you read the Gospels, he hated religion. He was all about relationship. Relationship with God, who we call Father. Relationship with one another. It's all. I love metaphors.
So this is all great. So a little bit about, how many years you been in Ridgetown now? It's been a lot more than...
Well, I've been in Chatham, Kent. I moved to Blenheim back in '96. Pastored a church there for 8 years. And then I took a break for a few years.
Oh?
I felt myself losing my edge.
Okay.
I was getting tired. And so actually when you met me, I don't know if it was during those in-between years, but I did landscaping, I did construction. There's work for people if they want it, right? Mm-hmm. But I also started another Emerge Ministries Canada. So I got together all these medical doctors, psychologists, psychiatrists, clinicians, therapists, and put them together as a big team across Ontario so we could help other pastors, other missionaries, other people in their crisis. So we established that, and that still exists today.
Really? Do you still have part of it, or in part of it?
Indirectly. I founded it and managed it, and then got it into another group of people that could take care of it. And so it still exists under a different name.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
But then I found my sweet spot. So I've pastored a couple churches in the area, but I'm chaplain at the University of Guelph Ridgetown campus. I meet these young men and women, like I was when I was 19, who are lost, and help them see that there's purpose in their life and coach them. Mm-hmm. And so I've been doing that for 20 years.
That's where I wanted to get to.
Yeah.
Because obviously it's got to be important to you because you're there every year.
It's the most important thing I've ever done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
I love what you've done in Ridgetown. Like the church is so beautiful.
Yeah.
It's
We've built a church, but it's just a building.
yeah.
And I keep telling people the church is the people. What's good as a building, as beautiful as it is, without good people.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But it always kind of hones back to how did you get into the university? Like what? There's that. I didn't go to school, so I don't even. Is that something that all schools do? Or
No, it's not. In fact, for Ridgetown, which is the ag school,
Yeah.
it's always been known as the ag school. University of Guelph, somehow, I don't know the politics of it, but eventually took ownership of it. And so then it became the University of Guelph Ridgetown campus. Still agricultural programs, but now horticultural programs, environmental studies, vet tech, or VOA, office workers for veterinarians. This spectrum. And I have no background in any of those disciplines, which is absolutely crazy making that I'm there. But it doesn't matter. There was a director 20 years ago who really cared about students, not just the academics, but their mental health.
Mhm.
And he saw that many students came from rural backgrounds, they had a faith component to their life. Why do not do something on campus that will help them integrate faith with their studies and support them? So he invited the churches of the area to partner together to bring somebody in. And because I was in transition, remember I had stopped pastoring for a few years, was doing all these other things. They asked if I would be interested, and I would be interested. An opportunity to meet young men and women that are lost. I could not say no to that. There wasn't income or anything, it was just opportunity. I started with a handful of students the first year. We have 65 students right now.
I can remember. Yeah, I remember going in because we entered right across from my entrance at the high school.
Yeah, I don't remember you guessing that what you were being taught or heard probably didn't make much sense to you at that time because you weren't there yet. And that is like, we don't know. At some point the lights come on and then all of a sudden it makes sense.
Every bit of it.
I remember reading a book one time. It was called Healing of Memories by David Siemens, and I read it and I went, this is the biggest pile of crap I've ever read. 2 years later, I'm having a struggle in my life. I pick up the book, and it's the wisest, most insightful book I've ever read. I wasn't there yet.
Valleys.
Yeah.
Doug, this was a great podcast.
Well,
I really appreciate you. Thank you.
okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
And